She cleaned their offices for 6 years. They never knew she spoke 5 languages. They laughed when the billionaire offered £23,000 to anyone who could translate the document. They made jokes about the cleaning lady. What they didn't know, that cleaning lady was about to save the company and destroy the man who tried to steal her father's legacy. This is a true story about the moment when invisible became unforgettable. Stay with me. You won't believe what happens next. Welcome to Voice of Granny. While you are here, please hit the subscribe button and comment your view on the story and where you're watching from. You know that feeling when people look right through you? Like you're just part of the furniture? That's how Sarah Bennett felt every single day. Picture this. It's a Tuesday morning in London, and Sarah is pushing her cleaning cart down the marble hallway of Sterling Fashion House, one of the biggest luxury clothing companies in Europe. She's wearing her gray uniform, her hair tied back, her eyes down. And in the boardroom ahead, they're shouting, "Someone get me a French translator, now." The voice belongs to James Sterling himself, the billionaire owner. His face is red, and he's waving a thick document in the air like it's on fire. Sarah slows down. She can see through the glass walls into that boardroom. Expensive suits, designer watches, people who make more in a day than she makes in a year. The Paris office sent this merger proposal entirely in French, Sterling continues. We have 72 hours to respond, or Maison du Bois takes their deal to our competitors. Does anyone here speak French? The executives look at each other. Uncomfortable silence. Then Richard Hayes, the vice president, laughs. It's not a kind laugh. Maybe we should ask the cleaning lady, he jokes, gesturing toward Sarah. I'm sure they teach French in housekeeping school, right? The room erupts in laughter. Sarah keeps her head down, keeps polishing the table, but her hand is shaking. Because here's what they don't know. Sarah speaks perfect French. Also perfect Arabic. And flawless English, obviously. She grew up speaking all 3 languages in her home in Manchester, daughter of an English mother and an Algerian father who was a literature professor. I'll make it worth someone's while, Sterling announces, his voice booming. Anyone who can translate this 30-page fashion merger proposal accurately in 48 hours gets my daily salary. That's £23,000. £23,000. Sarah's phone buzzes in her pocket. It's a text from her landlord. Final notice. Pay £22,000 in back rent by Friday, or you and your mother are out. Court order approved. Her mother. Sarah thinks of her at home right now, lying in bed, partially paralyzed from a stroke. The same mother who used to be a brilliant accountant before the healthcare system failed her. Before the bills piled up. Before everything fell apart. In her pocket, Sarah's fingers touch something smooth and cool. A fountain pen. Not just any pen, her father's pen. The one he used to grade papers with. The one he gave her on her 18th birthday, 3 months before Sterling Fashion House fired him after 20 years of service. 20 years of building their international partnerships. 20 years of translating fashion terminology, negotiating with French suppliers, teaching executives how to pronounce haute couture correctly. And then one day he was gone. Restructuring, they called it. No severance. No thank you. Just gone. When her father couldn't find another job, when the blacklisting started, when the whispers in the industry made him unemployable, the stress triggered his heart attack. He died 6 months later, leaving Sarah, then 19 years old, and her mother drowning in medical debt. Now Sarah is 25. She works 3 jobs, cleaning offices at Sterling Fashion House from 5 p.m. to midnight, translating freelance documents online under a fake name from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m., and caring for her mother every moment in between. She gets maybe 3 hours of sleep a night. The mathematics of survival are simple and brutal. £2,100 for rent, £850 for her mother's medications, £400 toward her father's medical debt that still haunts them, £300 for food, £200 for utilities. Every month. Without fail. For 6 years, she's been invisible in this building. Moving through these hallways like a ghost, emptying trash cans while executives discuss million-pound deals in French, Arabic, Spanish. Languages they assume she doesn't understand. But she understands everything. She knows Sterling cut employee pensions while buying a £12 million estate in the countryside. She knows Richard Hayes stole a brilliant marketing campaign from a junior employee named Priya and passed it off as his own. She knows the company's public commitment to diversity is a lie. 90% of the cleaning and maintenance staff are immigrants and people of color. while 95% of executives are white British. Knowledge without power. Intelligence without opportunity. And now this document. This opportunity. This £23,000 that would save her mother, save their home, give them a chance to breathe for the first time in years. But revealing her skills could cost her everything. What if she fails? What if they fire her for overstepping? What if the very company that destroyed her father's career now profits from her hidden talent? As the executives file out of the boardroom, still complaining about their translator problem, Sarah notices something on the table. They've left the document behind, just the first page, with the Maison Dubois logo at the top. She glances at it while wiping the table. Her heart stops. She recognizes this specific merger deal. Her father worked on the preliminary negotiations for this exact partnership 7 years ago, before he was fired. Before Sterling decided they didn't need his expertise anymore. The irony is suffocating. Sarah looks at the clock on the wall. 72 hours until the deadline. 72 hours until her eviction hearing. In her pocket, her father's pen feels heavier than ever. What would you do? Would you step out from the shadows and risk everything? Or would you stay invisible, stay safe, and watch your world crumble? Sarah Bennett is about to make a choice that will change everything. That night, Sarah can't sleep. Not that she usually sleeps much anyway. She's sitting at their tiny kitchen table in their cramped apartment. Her mother is asleep in the living room. They converted it into a bedroom because she can't handle stairs anymore. The medical equipment hums and beeps softly, a constant reminder of everything they've lost. The eviction notice sits on the table. Bold red letters, final notice. 72 hours. Sarah pulls out her phone and looks at photos she took of the French document. Just a few pages. Just enough to see what she's dealing with. Her hands start to shake, but not from fear. From anger, because she can read it perfectly. Every word. Every technical fashion term. Every legal clause. This is her language. Her skill. Her inheritance from a father who believed words could build bridges between people. Words are magic, Habibti. He used to tell her in their kitchen, mixing Arabic endearments with English wisdom. When you speak someone's language, you touch their heart. That's power they can't take away from you. But they did take it away, didn't they? They took her father's job, his dignity, his health. They took her university dreams. She was accepted to study international relations at King's College London. Full scholarship. A future so bright it hurt to look at. Then her father lost his job. Then he died. Then her mother had the stroke. Then 19-year-old Sarah had to choose. Education or survival. She chose survival. Now she translates academic papers online under the username Language Bridge. She has a 5-star rating. Over 400 completed projects. Clients from 15 countries. But she can't tell anyone. Can't put it on a resume. Because revealing her identity means losing the minimal health coverage her cleaning job provides. The coverage keeping her mother alive. Sarah makes a decision at 2 a.m. She won't reveal herself. Not directly. Too dangerous. But she can test the waters. Saturday night finds her back at Sterling Fashion House. Her cleaning uniform is the perfect disguise for after-hours access. The security guard, Ahmed, waves at her with a tired smile. "Weekend overtime?" he asks in his thick Moroccan accent. "My mother needs medicine," Sarah replies, deliberately thickening her own accent, playing the role they expect. The role that keeps her safe. Ahmed nods sympathetically. He understands. He has 3 kids and works 2 jobs too. The executive floor is empty. Silent. Sarah wheels her cart past the boardroom where they left their translation attempts scattered across a whiteboard. She looks at their work and physically winces. They've mistranslated the title. They think fusion creative means creative confusion. They've confused actionaires, shareholders, with actionaires, actionable items. They've turned heritage textile, textile heritage, into inherited textiles. It's a disaster. Using her father's fountain pen, Sarah carefully corrects 3 critical sections. She translates the complex fashion terminology with precision, words like ateliers de haute couture, maisons patrimoniales, savoir-faire artisanal. Terms her father taught her at the dinner table, while her mother made couscous, and her father explained the poetry of French fashion language. She signs her corrections simply, Night Owl. It's a test, specific enough to show expertise, limited enough to seem like helpful hints rather than a complete solution. By Sunday morning, her anonymous help has created chaos. Sarah arrives early with her cleaning cart, positioning herself near the boardroom door where she can hear everything. Who the hell is Night Owl? Sterling demands. Security says nobody unauthorized entered the building, Richard Hayes responds, studying the whiteboard with narrow eyes. Sarah watches through the glass as Hayes looks at her corrections. His expression changes. Calculating. Cold. Then, to her absolute shock, he erases her signature. Actually, Hayes says smoothly, turning to Sterling, I did this part. I've been studying French privately. Didn't want to make a fuss until I was fluent, but given the emergency. Sterling claps him on the shoulder. Finally, some initiative, Hayes. You take point on this. Coordinate the team. Sarah feels like she's been punched in the stomach. Her work, her knowledge, her father's legacy. Stolen. Again. But she can't afford to feel angry. Not with 60 hours until eviction. That night, with her mother finally sleeping, Sarah spreads the photographed documents across their kitchen table. She works through the technical portions, her pen flying across paper. Then she sees something that makes her blood run cold. Buried in the legal language is a clause. Workforce optimization requirements. In plain English, it means Sterling Fashion House would be required to lay off 300 workers at their manufacturing facility to cut costs. Among those workers would be her cousin's family. Refugees from Algeria who finally found stability after 3 years of struggling in London. Sarah sits back. Her father's pen suddenly feels impossibly heavy. Complete the translation anonymously and enable more families to suffer? Or reveal herself and risk everything? Her phone buzzes. It's her supervisor. New security cameras installed in executive wing. All cleaning staff must complete tasks before 7 p.m. starting Monday. No exceptions. The window is closing. Sarah looks at her mother sleeping in the next room. At the eviction notice. At her father's pen. Sometimes the right choice is the hardest choice. Sometimes being invisible is the only way to survive. But sometimes, just sometimes, survival isn't enough. By Monday evening, Sarah is running on pure adrenaline and desperation. She's managed to translate roughly half the document, sneaking moments during bathroom breaks, working frantically in supply closets, hiding pages under her cleaning supplies. It's exhausting. It's dangerous. But it's working. She leaves more Night Owl notes in the boardroom. More corrections. More expertise. And Richard Hayes keeps taking credit for every single one. She watches him get praised. Watches him get promoted to lead the project. Watches executives who wouldn't give her a second glance treat Hayes like a genius. The countdown is ticking in her head like a bomb. 58 hours until eviction. 47 hours until the French deadline. Her mother's condition worsens. The stress of potential homelessness is spiking her blood pressure to dangerous levels. The doctor calls Sarah at work. She needs to be admitted to hospital. We need a 1,800 pounds deposit. Sarah doesn't have 1,800 pounds. She barely has 180 pounds. We need a miracle, her mother whispers that night, squeezing Sarah's hand with her one good hand. But Sarah has the miracle within reach. If only she's brave enough to grab it. Then Tuesday morning brings disaster. We have a security breach. The words echo through the executive floor. Sarah is arranging coffee service, keeping her face blank as the security chief plays video footage. There's a shadowy figure in the boardroom after hours. The camera's caught someone, but the angle doesn't show a face. Could be corporate espionage, the security chief says gravely. Could be a competitor trying to steal the deal. Investigate everyone, Sterling orders. Especially maintenance staff with after-hours access. Sarah feels Richard Hayes staring at her. Has he figured it out? By afternoon, security is interviewing every cleaner. When it's Sarah's turn, she plays her role perfectly. The simple immigrant worker who barely speaks English, confused by complicated questions. No understand problem, she repeats, hating herself for the stereotype but recognizing its protective power. I clean only. No touch papers. The security chief seems satisfied. But Hayes lingers after the interview. His university ring, Oxford, he never lets anyone forget, taps against the desk. Interesting, he says. You seem to understand English perfectly well when I'm giving you cleaning instructions. Sarah shrugs, eyes down. Instructions simple. Questions complicated. Hayes leans closer. I think you understand much more than you let on. Much more. That evening, Sarah discovers her locker has been searched. Her stomach drops when she realizes what's missing. her father's fountain pen, her connection to him, her talisman, her confidence. Looking for this? Hayes corners her in the empty break room, twirling the pen between his fingers. Quite an unusual item for a cleaning lady. Expensive too. French made, if I'm not mistaken. Makes one wonder how you could afford it. Sarah reaches for it, but Hayes pulls back. Security is very concerned about unauthorized personal items that could be used for corporate espionage. I've taken the liberty of filing a report. By Wednesday morning, HR issues Sarah a formal warning. Possession of suspicious materials. Questionable behavior. Without her father's pen, without that physical connection to who she really is, Sarah feels unmoored. Her certainty faltering. The countdown screams in her head. 34 hours until eviction. 24 hours until the French deadline. Her mother was taken to hospital emergency with chest pains. The ambulance alone cost them £400 they didn't have. The apartment manager has posted the final notice on their door. 48 hours until they change the locks. Desperate, Sarah uses her lunch break to access Hayes' computer while he's in a meeting. What she finds horrifies her. Hayes has deliberately mistranslated key sections. He's made errors that aren't just wrong, they're dangerous. The agreement he's preparing would violate international trade laws. Would expose Sterling Fashion House to massive legal liability. The company is about to sign a deal that could destroy them. When she returns to her cleaning duties, Hayes is waiting. I know it's you, he says without preamble. The mysterious translator. Sarah's mask slips for just a second. I checked the personnel files, Hayes continues. Your father was Thomas Bennett. Worked here for 20 years until we right-sized him. Your mother is Fatima from Algeria. Quite the multilingual household, I imagine. Sarah's careful accent falls away. My father was invaluable to this company. Hayes' eyebrows rise. So she speaks proper English. I wondered when you'd drop the act. Give me back my pen. After I speak with immigration about your mother's visa status, Hayes counters. It expired, didn't it? After your father's death. Would be a shame if the authorities were notified during her hospital stay. The threat hangs between them like poison. Speak up and face deportation. Stay silent and watch hundreds lose their jobs while Sterling Fashion House commits corporate suicide. 30 hours until eviction. 24 hours until the deadline. Sarah has never felt more trapped. But she's also never felt more determined. Because sometimes when they push you into a corner, that's when you discover what you're really made of. Sometimes the quietest people have the loudest truth. And sometimes, just sometimes, the invisible become unforgettable. The emergency board meeting begins at 9 a.m. Thursday, 24 hours before the Maison du Bois deadline. Sarah moves silently around the conference room, pouring coffee and arranging pastries. Invisible. That's what they think. Richard Hayes stands at the head of the table, presenting his completed translation to James Sterling and the board members. His PowerPoint gleams with confidence. As you can see, Hayes explains, laser pointer dancing across the screen. The terms are highly favorable. Maison du Bois is offering exclusive partnership rights at rates 15% below market value. Sarah's hands tremble as she refills the water pitcher. That's not what the document says at all. They're not offering below market rates. They're requesting premium rates because of the exclusive craftsmanship involved. Their only unusual request, Hayes continues, is what translates roughly as flexible staff arrangements. Sarah nearly drops the water pitcher. Hayes is deliberately hiding the mass layoffs the contract requires. He's obscuring language that would devastate 300 families. There's a technical section about the atelier traditional process that's still somewhat unclear, Hayes admits, butchering the pronunciation so badly that Sarah can't stop herself from flinching. Sterling notices. Something wrong. All eyes turn to her. The moment stretches. Time seems to stop. Sarah's entire future balances on this single second. Atelier traditional, she says softly, the proper French pronunciation flowing naturally. It means traditional workshop, not whatever he just said. It refers to the heritage craftsmanship methods that Maison du Bois is famous for. It's not about staff flexibility. It's about preserving artisan techniques. The room freezes. Hayes' face goes dark red. Excuse me? Sarah straightens her shoulders. 6 years of hiding, erased in one breath. You've mistranslated several critical sections. The document doesn't offer favorable rates. It requires premium pricing for premium craftsmanship. And that flexible staff arrangement clause? It mandates that Sterling Fashion House lay off 300 manufacturing workers within 60 days of signing. How dare you interrupt? Hayes begins, but Sterling cuts him off. You speak French? Sterling demands, looking at Sarah as if seeing her for the first time in 6 years. French, Arabic, and English, Sarah answers, her heart pounding so hard she can feel it in her throat. My father was Thomas Bennett. He built your international partnerships for 20 years before your restructuring. He taught me fashion French and business terminology from the time I could talk. Recognition flickers across Sterling's face. Bennett. I remember him. This is absurd, Hayes protests. She's just a cleaner. She's probably working for our competitors. Check my credentials, Sarah challenges, pulling out her phone with shaking hands. She shows them her profile on translationhub.com. Username, Language Bridge. 4.98 star rating. 412 completed projects. Specializations, fashion industry, legal documents, business French and Arabic. Sterling takes her phone, scrolling through the impressive testimonials and client list. His business instincts are clearly at war with his prejudices. Your translation mentions nothing about the premium pricing structure, Sarah continues, her voice growing stronger. It also hides the worker termination requirements, which would violate at least 3 labor agreements Sterling Fashion House has publicly signed. The board members murmur, looking between Hayes and this cleaning woman who suddenly speaks like an executive. This is outrageous, Hayes sputters. You can't possibly. Page 16, paragraph 4, Sarah recites from memory. The exact phrase is reduction nécessaire de personnel de manufacture, minimum 3 cents posts. Necessary reduction of manufacturing personnel, minimum 300 positions. I can recite the entire section if you'd like. The room goes completely silent. Sterling studies her for a long moment. Then, slowly, a smile spreads across his face. Not warm. Not kind. But impressed. Calculating. My offer stands, he says. Translate the complete document accurately by tomorrow's deadline, and my daily salary is yours. £23,000. Sarah's knees feel weak, but her voice doesn't shake. I want it in writing. A formal contract guaranteeing my employment regardless of the outcome. And I want my father's pen back. Your what? Sterling frowns. My fountain pen. Mr. Hayes confiscated it yesterday. Called it suspicious material. Filed it with security. Every eye turns to Hayes, who reluctantly pulls the elegant pen from his jacket pocket. And, Sarah adds, surprising herself with her boldness, I want a confidentiality clause protecting my mother's immigration status. No retaliation. No reports to authorities. The room falls silent at her audacity. Sterling studies her with something that might almost be respect. Draw up the agreement, he instructs his assistant. Get Miss Bennett whatever resources she needs. As her father's pen is returned to her hand, Sarah feels its familiar weight. Cool. Solid. Grounding. Real. She's visible now. For the first time in 6 years, they see her. James Sterling nods toward a small conference room. You have 18 hours. Don't disappoint me. Sarah walks toward that room, her father's pen gripped tight in her hand, and she can almost hear his voice. Words build bridges, Habibti. Now go build yours. Behind her, she hears Hayes being questioned by Sterling. His lies unraveling. His stolen credit collapsing. Ahead of her, a desk. A computer. A document that could save her family. 18 hours to prove she's more than invisible. 18 hours to honor her father's memory. 18 hours to build a bridge from survival to something that looks almost like hope. She sits down, opens the document, picks up her pen, and begins to write her own story. Sarah works through the night, her father's pen moving across paper with practiced precision. The conference room they've given her is small but adequate. Coffee from the executive machine. The good stuff, not the break room sludge. A proper desk. A working computer. Resources she's never had access to in 6 years of working in this building. By 3 a.m., her eyes burn with exhaustion. The French characters swim on the page. But she's completed nearly 90% of the translation, carefully documenting every technical term, every cultural nuance, every subtle implication that machine translation could never capture. Her phone buzzes. The hospital. Your mother is stable, but we need £2,200 deposit for continued care by noon. 30 hours until eviction. 6 hours until translation deadline. She allows herself one moment of hope. Sterling's money would solve everything. Hospital bills. Back rent. Breathing room. Maybe even a small apartment near medical facilities. She rests her head on her arms. Just for a moment. The crash of hot coffee across her desk jolts her awake. Oh, how clumsy of me. Richard Hayes stands over her, empty cup in hand. False concern on his face. I was bringing you a fresh cup. You looked exhausted. Sarah jumps up, frantically dabbing at the spreading liquid with tissues. Her handwritten notes are soaked. Her laptop screen flickers, then goes black. My translation, she begins, panic rising. Don't worry, Hayes says with a smile that doesn't touch his eyes. I backed up your files to my secure drive. For safekeeping. But unfortunately, he shrugs. Technical glitch. Corruption. These things happen. Give them back, Sarah demands. I would, but the files seem to have been accidentally deleted. So unfortunate. He turns to leave, then calls over his shoulder. Sterling expects perfection. One mistranslated clause could cost millions. I'm sure he'll understand if you withdraw. Sarah's phone buzzes. Her landlord. Eviction happening this morning instead of Friday. Sheriff approved acceleration. She stares at the ruined papers. The dead computer. For hours of work destroyed. Her mother in hospital. Eviction imminent. Hayes has won. For one long moment, she considers giving up. Walking away. Finding another cleaning job somewhere they can't touch her. Then she sees her bag. The edge of a notebook peeking out. Her father's research journal. She'd brought it for reference, but forgotten about it until now. Inside are his detailed notes on French fashion terminology, industry contacts, negotiation strategies, cultural insights about working with Parisian fashion houses. Knowledge gained over 20 years that most people spend careers trying to learn. Wait, Sarah calls as Sterling enters, ready to fire her. He pauses at the door, irritated. We're done here, Miss Bennett. My father worked on this exact partnership, Sarah says, pulling out the journal. The preliminary Maison du Bois negotiations 7 years ago. Before he was fired. These notes contain context that isn't in their proposal because they assume you already understand it. She opens the journal, finding pages of insights about Du Bois' family business practices, their negotiation style, their values around craftsmanship and heritage. I can complete this translation with accuracy and cultural precision no agency could match, Sarah says with new confidence. Because I'm not just translating words, I'm translating relationship. Sterling studies her. Studies the journal. You have 10 minutes. Sarah works with fierce focus, her father's pen and journal side by side. At precisely 8:58 a.m., she walks into the boardroom where executives have gathered for the video call with Maison du Bois. She places the translation before Sterling. The call is starting, his assistant announces. Sterling scans the document, then looks at Sarah. Miss Bennett, perhaps you should. Actually, comes a voice from the video screen. We would prefer if Miss Bennett stayed. Everyone turns to the large display. Antoine Du Bois, CEO of Maison du Bois, sits with his team. Beside him is an older man Sarah recognizes from her father's photos, Marcel Fontaine, former colleague. Miss Bennett, Fontaine says in French, it is an honor to meet Thomas's daughter. He spoke of your linguistic gifts with such pride. Sarah responds in perfect French, her surprise giving way to understanding. The honor is mine, Monsieur Fontaine. I didn't realize you knew of my work here. We didn't, Antoine Du Bois interjects, switching to English, until our team noticed someone was accurately translating our deliberately complex proposal. Very few people could navigate that terminology correctly. It made us curious. Sterling looks between them, understanding dawning. This was a test? We included technical complexities, Sarah translates Du Bois's rapid French, to see if Sterling Fashion House still retained the expertise my father helped build. They wanted to know if you valued the knowledge he brought, or if you truly saw him as expendable. And do we pass? Sterling asks carefully. Sarah turns to Du Bois, asking directly in French about the workforce clause ambiguities. Du Bois smiles. Very perceptive. We have concerns about Sterling's labor practices since Monsieur Bennett's departure. The workforce language was deliberately ambiguous to see how it would be interpreted. Hayes steps forward. This is ridiculous. She's making things up to. Perhaps, Sarah interrupts calmly. Mr. Hayes would like to explain why he deliberately mistranslated key sections and sabotaged my work. She pulls out her phone, showing security footage she'd requested that morning. Hayes clearly visible pouring coffee on her computer. The room goes silent. Sterling's expression hardens. Mr. Hayes. Security will escort you out. You're terminated effective immediately. As Hayes is removed, protesting loudly, Du Bois speaks again. We will proceed with the partnership on one condition: that Miss Bennett oversees the cultural liaison as our primary contact. They insist on working directly with me, Sarah translates. It's a requirement of the deal. Sterling looks at her, recognizing the power shift. With millions at stake and the deadline minutes away, he has no choice. Agreed, he says. Miss Bennett will oversee the cultural implementation. After the call, Sterling approaches her. It seems I underestimated you. Many people do, Sarah replies simply. He writes a check for £23,000. Then adds, Du Bois sent an additional £50,000 bonus. Specifically for your cultural consultancy services. £73,000 total. Enough to save her mother. Stop the eviction. Breathe. 6 months later, Sarah sits in her office, Director of International Relations. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Her mother's photo on the desk, healthy now, taking online accounting courses to restart her career. Her father's pen rests in a crystal stand, catching morning light. Her first official act was establishing a scholarship fund in her father's name and reviewing the company's labor practices. Her second was hiring workers from her community with proper benefits and training. The board members who once looked through her now seek her advice. But the real victory? Last week, she hired Ahmed, the security guard who always smiled at her, as assistant facilities manager. He has an engineering degree from Morocco that nobody ever asked about. Because talent doesn't always arrive in expected packages. Sometimes it arrives in a gray uniform, pushing a cleaning cart, speaking languages nobody bothered to listen for. Sometimes the invisible become unforgettable. Sometimes one voice, speaking truth, builds bridges that change everything. Sarah picks up her father's pen, ready for the day's work, and whispers, I built our bridge, Papa. Just like you taught me. The words, as always, are magic. Have you ever felt invisible? Have you ever had talents that people overlooked because of how you looked or where you worked? Share your story in the comments below. Let's celebrate the hidden brilliance in all of us. Subscribe for more stories about ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Because everyone has a story worth hearing. Everyone has a bridge worth building.